just woken up to the news that Apple has dropped the new M2 Pro version of the Mac Mini. Now, I've been using an M1 Mac Mini since its release, and honestly, it's been great and does everything I needed to do regarding moderate music production and 4K video work in Premiere, but I always knew that once a 32GB variant released, I'd probably move up. Let's talk about why it might be the right time to upgrade. Now, full disclosure, I am not a professional Mac reviewer. I'm just your everyday consumer, just like yourself, who happens to have a channel that revolves around tech. However, if you end up enjoying this content, please consider hitting that subscribe button and notification bell to help my small channel grow. For reference, my current Mac Mini is the M1 version, 16GB of RAM with 2TB of storage, and as I mentioned before, it's really been a solid device for me and has not limited my workflow much except when it comes to heavier editing, where I sometimes see slight hiccups because of a lot of plugins. Now, because of this, if your workload does not demand an intensive amount of power and you only do moderate 4K editing in Premiere or Final Cut Pro and use a modest amount of plugins in music production or just Lightroom or Photoshop work, I absolutely think you'll be just fine using the original M1 Mac Mini as your daily driver. That said, with the new M2 Pro model, one of the biggest non-performance based reasons for me to upgrade is the fact that I'll now have 4 Thunderbolt ports instead of 2. Because my editing monitor uses a Thunderbolt port and my hub uses a Thunderbolt port, I've been unable to purchase a Thunderbolt audio interface device like the Universal Audio Apollo for my setup. Now that problem's solved. And when it comes to performance, while we will see a nice jump to almost double the performance with photo editing, just look at the difference video editing will see, up to almost 3 times the speed. Now that is based on the 8GB M1 model, but either way, the improvements the new M2 chip will bring in addition to the extra RAM freeing up my workload is sure to bring improvements I've sought when it comes to heavier lifting. Now, while I haven't done any kind of research on this, the addition of Wi-Fi 6E, while not something directly on my list of needs, should be a nice bonus, and I'm hopeful I'll at least notice some sort of improvement, even if it's really small when it comes to upload speeds to YouTube. So the question is it worth it? I've got a perfectly functioning M1 Mac Mini with 16GB of RAM and 2TB of memory, and my perfect build of the M2 would consist of the M2 Pro chip with 12-core CPU, 32GB of unified RAM, and 1TB of storage should be more than enough, as I don't keep projects stored on my device for long since I can always download them again from YouTube. But that build with taxes will cost me a whopping $2,380. We know Mac is not cheap. And with that same amount of money, I could just get the M1 Max Mac Studio, which may only have a 10-core CPU versus 12, but will have a 32-core GPU, which may be the better option for heavier video editing. But once again, even with those performance bumps, is it worth it? I really want to know your opinions in the comments below, but after giving it some thought, I think if you don't already own a Mac Mini yet and are in need of one, then yes, you might be better off buying an M2 Pro version with 32GB of RAM if that suits your needs, but keep in mind that with the release of the M2 Pro, you will undoubtedly find good deals on the M1 16GB version like the one I'm currently using, which may be more than good enough for your needs. In the end, for me, while the jump from 16 to 32GB of RAM would be nice, the extra Thunderbolt ports would come in handy, and the overall performance boost would no doubt be welcome. I just can't justify the $2,500 price tag when I already have a perfectly functioning M1 Mac Mini that gets 90% of my workload done with no problem. Now, your needs may vary, so it's up to you to decide if the M2 Pro variant is right for you, but again, I want to know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you already own the M1 version like me and are going to upgrade? Why is it worth it to you? Or do you agree that the M1 16GB version is enough for most workflows and the extra expense just isn't worth it? Whatever your stance, I'm interested in your thoughts, as maybe, just maybe, you could possibly change my mind. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and let me know if there's anything else you'd like to see me cover. That's going to wrap things up for today. So until next time, thank you for watching, stay tuned, and have a great rest of your day.